All right.
Marvellous. Thank you, everyone. We'll now reconvene the Grants Subcommittee of the South Australian District Council. We'll pick up where we picked up yesterday. Overnight, we have asked for clarification on some points regarding applications. As joining us online is Joe from the Featherston Community Centre.
Hello.
Welcome and thank you for coming at last minute. If you want me to start with the questions, and we're going to add more as we go forward. Joe, I think the first, to paraphrase what our query was you're requesting a total of $80,000 for kitchen renovations, and you have $43,000 already committed to various organisations. The question is, what is the necessity for such a large amount to upgrade an existing kitchen, or is the movement of the kitchen necessary for your organisation?
Sorry, you're breaking up a bit there, Alex. So the gist of the question was why such a large amount to do it? So we've currently got like a little kitchenette, which is just a sink and a hot water boiler. We're wanting to make that a full kitchen, including putting in a couple of sinks and a hot water cylinder. So it's quite a big job for that room.
Right. Have you looked at community support from people who would be willing to donate services to assist in that?
Yeah, so that's what we're looking into at the moment. And we have got a plumber and hopefully an electrician on board. We've also got some community people that are looking at donating appliances, which is very helpful. But it's sort of, I suppose it's hard to come up with the final figure for us when that's sort of ongoing stuff.
Yeah.
Like, so we think we found a fridge for $700 instead of a couple of grand. That would be one example.
Is there a likelihood you could complete the project with the money you already have committed from the organisations, the $43,000?
I don't believe so, because we do have those big overheads, like the architect, the permitting and things. We're yet to sit down with the council and discuss what's needed from a permitting drainage perspective. So we're a little bit aware that that could be a hidden cost.
Righty-ho. Cool. Councillor, have you got any other questions or clarification?
So you mean with regards to putting in the kitchen?
Just yell for that.
With regards to putting in the kitchen, Joe, are you saying that there could be potential for an updated grease trap? Is that?
Yeah, so those are the things that we want to sit down with council and discuss. So the grease trap, the any drainage requirements, permitting requirements, whether or not we're actually going to be classed as a commercial kitchen. Now, we're not going to be making money off this kitchen. It is purely to serve the community. And that was when I spoke to MPI, they said that was quite a big difference. If you're not making money, if you're not selling, then you're not a commercial kitchen.
So is there a potential for a commercial kitchen to come in and use your facilities?
Not if it's not up to commercial kitchen grade.
Yeah.
Which is not our intention.
Yeah.
Lee, you had a question?
Yes, thanks, Joe. Tell me, so are you moving the kitchen to the far end, relocating the whole kitchen, is that correct?
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Are you relocating the kitchen to the other end of the building?
No, so we have two kitchenettes at the moment. We have one in the centre of the building, which is currently what's utilised. And then at the end by the toy library, by the medical centre end of the building, there's another kitchenette. So that's the one that we wish to use. The reason we wish to use that one is it's far better accessible, both for deliveries, for food being picked up, disabled access, prams, things like that.
Cool. And Jared, you have, sorry.
It's like, and Joe, do you say you also, and so you presume you've got drainage, etc. in there from the current outlet? So-
Yeah, we do. So it's just sitting down and getting an understanding what the increased activity at that part of the building is going to do, if anything.
Great, thanks, Joe.
Jared, you have your
Hi, Joe. This 2.1's already been answered, so we're not looking at a commercial kitchen. Are you going to end up with effectively two kitchens, so a kitchenette at one end and one in the middle?
Yeah, so the one that's there in the middle at the moment is just a kitchenette. So it's tea, coffee making facilities, microwave, fridge, and we do have an oven there, but it's just used for heating hot sausage rolls.
Cool. Pam, you had a question?
Joe, just, I'm not sure, hopefully you can hear me. Where you're at the moment without doing the council consents and things like that, do you actually think you will finish the project in this financial year, being until June 23?
Yes, we do believe that, as long as we don't have unseen holdups like not having tradespeople or lockdowns or not having materials and things like that. But yeah, we've got things pretty lined up. So we are at that stage where we're now looking at second-hand appliances, whether or not community members will donate time and money. And we're actually at the point where Paul, the chairman of our board, is about to organise a sit down. So he just met with Teo from the Brackenbow to discuss with him their thoughts on the kitchen, whether or not they had any tips or workarounds for the layout. So we are pretty close to actually sitting down and saying, what do we need to do? Because we know that we need to upgrade some electrical, for example. So we've had an electrician in this week to have a look at the switchboard that's at the end of the building. At the moment, it sits in the room and we don't want it in the room with water, whereas it's right by the sink. So we're actually going to flip it around and put it into the other room.
Got it.
And so I think with the funding that you have, the fact that you're not looking at upgrading it all the way to a commercial, and the fact that you haven't yet actually had to sit down to nut out what the pricing is. I just have a concern because it's quite large amount that you're asking for, and yet you may not need anywhere near that. So I just don't know how realistic the amount is, just to be perfectly honest. And of course, because it is public money, so we just have to be really careful with how we distribute it out. So what are your thoughts with regards to that?
So the idea that the pricing that we got in the budget, so not going through to sitting down with council, what we were aware of was initially when we were discussing the project, we were discussing how many ovens were needed, what sort of activities would be done in there, whether or not we're moving the switchboard, do we need a hand washing sink that's further away from the food for safety in this, especially in this current world. It's ideal that people wash their hands as they enter the room. So we're looking at that sort of thing, and we sat down with a local architect and he gave us his time for free, and that's where we came up with those amounts that you see. I think I put them in other in the budget, where it had like project management, architect, permits, and he gave us estimates that he thought based on a kitchen that he did at Dickinson Bookshop.
Yep.
We're just mindful, I suppose, of sitting down at this point, as you said, where we're sort of bringing everything together, and we branched out to like kitchen places, for example, got them to do lots of work. They then came to us and then we said, oh no, that's not what we want. So we were just mindful of doing that over and over.
Yeah.
When we weren't, the more people we talk to, the more we hear we need or don't need. So it's just a process, and council is in that process. we need to sit down and go, okay, we were told it would be, I think the figure was 8 grand or 10 grand. And then have someone say to us, well, actually you need a sump, or you need to move this pipe.
Money gets to the council.
Right, hey, look, any other questions, guys? Yeah, Brenda.
So with the upgrade of the kitchen at the far end, how will it affect some of the programs that you run, like your art programs? For use the sinks, currently use them.
It won't affect them at all. So at the moment, there are 3 regular groups that use that room that will be affected, and 2 of them are support groups. So they're happy to relocate to the other end of the building because they just need a private access to the building where they don't have to go through the main door because it's an anonymous group. The other group is a similar group, but it's with tamariki. So again, they can just move to the other end of the building. What we like about that room is that access. So it's accessible from the outside. The other thing is that room has a really high stud, whereas the middle kitchen is quite low. So for ventilation and extraction and things like that, the high stud works much better. And that's something that came out of our conversation with the architect, because we were originally looking at that middle room and changing out maybe the reception. But then he looked at it and he said, no, it's not going to work because the ceiling's too low.
Right.
I suppose that's a really good example of the more people we talk to, the more comes out that we should change.
So we've got one other question from Pam.
Joe, when you move the kitchen, the one that your little kitchenette that you're going to leave, is that going to be used, or will that be redundant in having, will you need to take that out and just have one kitchen in place?
No, that will still be used. So the little kitchenette will still be used for tea and coffee, which is pretty much what all our groups use it for. So our counsellors and outreach clinics, they all use it to get their clients tea and coffee. And it would just keep, you know, mass production food for the likes of food banks or repurposing the food from Kura. It would keep it away from the people making tea and coffee. So at the moment, for example, we make soup for the food bank. And quite often people will be making that soup while people are trying to move around and get cups of tea. Health and safety wise, and just pure functionality, it'd be really good to separate the 2 functions.
Okay. Hey, Joe, thank you. We recognise that you're a volunteer, and thank you for clarifying our questions this morning. Really.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks. Bye.
And join.
And this, we had a lot of questions.
Yes, we ridiculous. And it's been quite helpful for us to have your answers quite fully. I did email this to Katie and
Got that in front of us.
so you got it.
Yeah.
Which is great. Thank you, Katie. Carried it about. So the first bit just tells you what the costs of the service are. And we'd be very careful just not allocate the direct costs. There's no contribution to either to the overheads of the building or anything like that. The direct costs are minimal if we do 560 meals a month, which is sort of the average. They do fluctuate enormously. We've just heard that some meals in July are 600 and something. 630 something. Yeah. And we've had lower months when they've been 400 and something. And I think our best ever month was about 800. So year to date, the average is 560. Well, not including August, which was a bit better. So it's huge variation. I think I put it on at 530, but actually that should be 560. What often happens is that somebody on Friday will have 3 weeks because it takes them through Friday and Saturday. So that pushes them.
So I've sort of started off with a couple of questions, then we'll open it up. One is, how many actual individuals? I mean, it's nice to see the number, but how many people are affected?
38.
38 people, and they're from all over the district.
all over the district. So there's 38 people, and we can sometimes go up to 45. Sometimes,
And what percentage of those from what I understand, eligibility for Meals on Wheels usually is doctor's referral and community services card. Is that correct?
No, not necessarily. We really anybody now, but in general, looking right across the board, most people will be older. Most of our recipients will actually assume that's often their own. We have lots of respect single men who in their at least 70s and 80s who require this service. And it's really anybody, we've been advertising quite strongly on Facebook. Well, it's passbound or passbound.
So then what percentage of your meals that are supplied might attract a subsidy from the DHB if they meet the requirements of the DHB, which provide Meals on Wheels in other areas? So this
DHB subsidise meals in other areas. They don't in Wairarapa. That's just a philosophical stance taken by the DHB. I did hear about one of our recipients yesterday who lives in the council flats in Martinborough, who has got MSD to pick up his bill. So there are, I don't know how he manages that, but the health service does not provide a subsidy. Social welfare might.
Okay. I've spoken to BHB and I need to get clarification because that's quite a different response to what they gave me this morning.
Really?
Yeah. That you are eligible. So we've looked at other councils around the country and DHBs and their legal requirement.
Well, we need to go back to them because given the health reforms, maybe there's going to be some rationalisation of approaches. We will go back to them and check that. We have never ever had anybody referred to us for Meals on Wheels by Focus, which is what we need to do. My knowledge. No, not to my knowledge. Focus. They're the people. They're the gatekeepers. Yeah, we should follow that up.
Yes. Cool.
Yeah.
Right, through to the councils then. Questions.
Yes, that was so if I'm thinking about the people that you said meals to, what percentage would have been referred by the GP/community? We're just trying to sort of get a fix because we've spoken overnight to FD, Christchurch, the other DHB.
Yes, other DHBs do.
And they all get funded.
Yes.
It's our concern is that you should be eligible for this, and it would be unfair for us to use public funds.
We have been talking with Glenwood Masonic, who also do Meals on Wheels at $12.50, and they receive no subsidy either. And we have talked about making a joint approach to the DHB and suggesting that they should be actually other DHBs and funding them. With respect to actually say Joy is the next member of the DHB.
Yes. I'm going to vote for you.
That eligible people can get meals from Wairarapa Hospital, $6 meal. But that is a very restricted list.
Okay.
So just going back to my original question, do you have any idea of how many people would be referred by the GP?
No, we don't, nobody refers to us.
How do you
People ring up and they say, maybe they're doing service to them, they contact us, that would be quite. Right,
so it's all productive with self.
self-referral, family referral.
Yeah.
Family referral, basically.
we've got a bit of information and clarification we need to.
Yeah, we need to sort that out, yes.
We are worried about your being able to continue the service to the elderly, even while we are seeking.
We can continue for what's in the future, I believe, and if you turn to the second page of our where it says sustainability plan.
Yes.
First of all, we have put the price up. We were charging $10 until the end of last week. Well, from the 1st of September, the price has gone up to $12.50. To date, that does not seem to have affected demand. Some people are choosing not to have the dessert and we reduce the price to $10 if that's the case. But it has made very little difference so far. We'll wait and see. Now, our financial year is 1 April to 31 March, as it was. We were pleased that the council enabled us to repurpose the grant awarded last September, which we had not collected, and that was paid out to us in April this year, and that was $6,000. So our shortfall for our estimated shortfall for the year after we put our price up is 27,000. Since we put the price up, it's gone down from 35 to 27.
Can you just clarify, so when you say shortfall, do you mean until March 23?
Yes, until the 31st of March. Yeah. So we know we are confident we can continue to 31 March, right? So I've set out the grants we've received to date, which include 6,000 from council, 2,000 from Rotary, 5,000 from the NECAM Foundation, 2,500 from Wairarapa Building Society, which totals 15,500. And we've had some donations specifically from Hills and Williams, totaling 400. So almost 16,000 we received in.
And we continue to apply.
Yeah. Well, we haven't got, we aren't, there's nothing at the moment. No, but right. So the expected shortfall is 11,000 after we allowed for grants and donations. And we're requesting 7,500 from the council. If that full amount was granted, it would reduce the shortfall to 3,700, which is a relatively small amount, which I'm sure we could cover and cover some fundraising activity and more donations. We do have income from our Oak Tree community, which averaging around 35,000 a year. That is needed really to maintain our building. And
secret issue.
Yes, it is. So at the moment, we're trying to keep the building at a good state while we make our firm plans for the future and build up use of it. So at the moment, the building costs about 50,000 a year to maintain, including rates, all those things, building interest, kitchen. So the Oak Tree donations really are to maintain the building while we determine what we're going to do going forward. Does that make sense?
Can I just ask you a question? You've got on the first page where you've got the cost of Warwick Park and Meals on Service.
Yeah.
You put the cook's hours in and the administrator hours in.
Yeah.
That's fine there, but you haven't added into your total staff costs the $320 per month KiwiSaver contributions.
Why not?
No, because that should be over 50,000, 52, nearly 53,000 when you add water. Than that, actually.
Right, no, they didn't go into staff costs, but they've gone into the total down the bottom.
Right, any other clarification?
Yeah, they are staff costs back.
Yeah,
They're in the wrong place.
So this is a lot more happening, I guess, because like yesterday being told that that was only going to come in 9 weeks. I hope that was something that was really, really, hard.
No,
We need to know that we're not just putting a band-aid on something.
no,
When it comes to, I'm just finishing saying, so when it comes to the vulnerable in our community, we have an obligation to always,
yeah,
look after them, and that's really, really important.
Yeah.
And so that's why we really needed some clarification and to know that in a way by being able to go away and find out this information from DHB to be able to offer more solutions on that side as well. Because, you know, we don't want to just constantly be topping this up and then, you know, we want to make sure that we're doing something that keeps it sustainable and moving.
Absolutely understand that, and that's our approach yesterday was heavily influenced by a grant application to another body that actually wanted to know the number of meals and how many weeks this would cover. So we sort of took that approach.
You're done?
That's it, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm just reiterating what Tim says, because yesterday it was a panic situation, 9 weeks to go. And if we didn't fund it, then we were sitting here saying this is going to finish by the end.
At Christmas time.
We said Christmas, right, and that was very much was stated here. The other question I had was, the same statement, you said, there's also sale of equipment, which is going into the store. So are you selling off existing equipment from the kitchen? And,
No, not from the kitchen, no.
No, from the bedding, or I don't know. So there's one off to mine. Just to show that once again, a band-aid to get us past Christmas, and that's what we're concerned.
Yeah, I think everybody appreciates that we're not financially, we don't solve it going forward.
Yep.
We have to do, over the next few weeks, we have to do some really serious, we have to come up with some concrete plans. It will depend, it will require building more accommodation. In the current environment, we couldn't possibly afford to reopen the rest home as a rest home, which is what the community wants. And we've had time to look at the Martinborough Star yesterday and sets out the cost of that. So we really have to help the community to understand that that is not an option. What the community is saying, well, just keep it so that you can in the future if you're not funding what will ever changes. That's they don't want us to change anything. Now that is a difficult one to swallow because I had somebody from the industry have a look at it in the walkthrough last week, and the advice from this CEO of another another large charitable organisation which has lots of branches all over the country, was that you would need to drop at least 200,000 into it to upgrade it before you could reopen. Things like, you know, it's all the service.
Look, I think we're straying away from.
Sorry.
That's probably in essence the first discussion.
I'm just concerned are we actually taking out some, need going forward? That's my question.
The equipment that we're selling is what we would put in for hospital care.
Yeah, okay. Next question.
Thanks very much. Yes, I think if we just focus on the Meals on Wheels side, yes, set aside the broader picture. Have you looked at other providers to provide food, commercial caterers, that sort of thing? And also, what liabilities would you have if you had to cease using the current staff in COG, etc.? So these questions, have you looked at outsourcing catering?
Yes, Kate,
Yes, we have talked to, when we actually thought we closed the residential care on the March. We then we knew that Meals on Wheels is such a valued service, and we didn't want to drop everybody on the 1st of April, which was and we haven't at that stage finalised our contract with our court. Because we just take them off and then we can. So it's no more addition if we very carefully, of course. And so just looking at that again, I talked to 3 of our larger restaurateurs around town, that's people who catered. they would, I mean, one of the challenges in the hospitality industry is the lack of chefs, very, very difficult at the moment. And we talked to them and they were happy to help us out for a couple of weeks, but didn't see. So then we looked at as we put in there, we started thinking, okay, and we said, can we do this in another way? And the challenge there is that communicators provide meals to walk in park, but after this. So in a nutshell, there is nobody in Martinborough or Greytown or Featherstone who provide knowledge.
So you didn't specifically ask for example, the workings, for example, which is now the workings could be made in Catholic Greytown.
No, we
Even
don't.
now commercial kitchen, it's actually used. Spotless is
We have looked at using other facilities. There are other facilities. We've talked about, you know, if we could mothball the building and use another commercial kitchen in Martinborough. The Anglican Church has one, for example.
The challenge we're trying to do, we also provide an internal village with our village. And they, one of our village sits in solitary splendor every day and has his meal because he's numbers of our village residents not coming in to have their meals, not necessarily in the villa, in the time. So we have an obligation to keep the dining room and the lounge socially open.
That's important.
You know, we're a retirement village and we changed from houses of hospital, a residential to a retirement.
And we have seated Pilates classes on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And some of the people who come in from outside, to those, and stay on and have lunch in the dining room, so they get their needs on wheels lunch on plate.
The outside the Meals on Wheels program or the
Yes, they're outside.
So they're paying for their lunch.
Yeah, but it's all part of it.
Yeah, it's all part of our costs.
So do they give a different rate?
No.
There is an administrative issue on these sorts of things. We are volunteers for administration at this point in time. We are.
So we have talked about establishing a lunch club, which would use the same meals and the same facilities and so on, and charging a little more for people to come in and use our facility, but that hasn't got going yet.
Well, really, in that, and as we said yesterday, in that interim period that says, what do we do with the whole facility?
Yeah.
And what do we? And the key thing was that we were not going to drop into the village because of the vulnerable people.
And that was the biggest thing the community wanted.
Yeah, and also everything else.
Yeah, I think you've answered that question quite well.
Yeah.
We understand,
Yeah.
but we just needed clarification and see if this is a sustainable way going forward.
We're very clear that we need a street, which would also help. I should also say, nobody back on the salary. I should council actually want to stream fundraising. Should we make?
Yeah. Cool. Right. Any other final wrap up so we can carry on?
So ask who you would contact at the DHB, so I could follow
Certainly, look, I'll pass on. I'm speaking communications with Mr. Dale of the
Dale.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Thank you very much. Guys, shall we start with a review of viewer and boosts, and then move on to really recap and everything. We had a chance to reflect on what we provisionally put in there, and I think we should go through them one by one, because these are important. We have had information as well regarding what some other councils are doing in the area, and that has raised some questions for me. And it's all about perspective and parity as well. Are you okay, comfortable with that? Or would you like to speak community first, or?
It's a good place to
Right.
start.
Yeah, and then it was time to mull over.
Yeah.
And I've got the spreadsheet, I'll just make any changes, so.
Cool, I'll open your spreadsheet.
We got the sun moving.
So to clarify, we've got still 19,212 budget, which is structural speed.
I don't think there's any problem, and I may be wrong. No problem with having a second round funding. So yeah, having unspent is a good thing. Can I just clarify, actually, on is the, well, because we had this issue last year, Wellington Free Ambulance, is that on a MOU?
No,
Yes,
yes,
exactly. That was one that they forgot to apply for last year.
Funny enough, it was one of
Right, so let's go through the Environment Road Safety Council. We've got them down at 5,000. Are we still happy with that amount?
No comment.
It was only, well, it was only if we were going to combine the other 1,000 with the rider.
They are aligned, but they are separate organisations. I am mindful that with the growth that's occurring in Birmingham, I know they asked for $1,000, but it is very youth specific for the South Warwick. But I think they've only asked for 1,000 and we've granted it.
Okay, that was mine.
Can we just verify that the Warrior Road Safety Council, I'm just asking a little bit more cards again.
This is that confidential?
No, only grants.
It's a draft.
It's only a draft.
Draft release, so I'm not sure whether or not people have been informed of what the
They did it yesterday, so.
Oh, sorry, give me one second.
yes, it's just going to be careful. So we want to look at
So how much money have we got in total for community?
No, we're on youth at present.
Oh, I'm sorry, for you, we've got.
So we've got 95,762. Currently, we're at 76,550. So we've still got an outstanding amount possible of 19,200.
So Warrior Road Safety Council get 5,000.
veranda blinds at the kindergarten. I think we're all in favour of that. I did like to comment about the reselling the old blinds, because they do think they may have a commercial value somewhere. But that's not up for us. The Kia leadership program.
We asked for information, specific information, and we're not seeing it, are we?
No, he's explained and they've got the email.
Yeah, it's still not very specific. However, and I go back to his presentation, I don't think any of us deny what they're doing is incredibly, it's almost essential.
Yeah.
The issue is they do tend to be doing stuff that I'm wondering why the central government or other organisations aren't fully funding it. Seems so crucial. However, in the absence of,
I mean, I don't know about the 10,000, but I'd still like to put something towards it. Because although there are other places that, you know, they're not getting the funding from them, so I'd like to really just, even if it was 4,000, that covers like our schools in the area.
So I just did, what can just go back, what did CDC get them?
again, I don't think we could probably publicly disclose that. So you need to look at it and then
That's from last time.
yeah.
They're not even on there.
They may have it. Oh, they're not even on it as an MOU. Where is it? What's that?
But just wanting that we have 3 towers and then we have the additional schools and things around that area. We can get some of that.
No, I don't think anyone. I was really impressed with the presentation. We're just going to look at the bottom amount. So, I mean, he did say that he was being squeezed for funding and what happened last year will reduce.
So, sorry, just to be clear, we still don't have a breakdown of the actual financials.
Not,
We've only got a combined one from South South.
not what we would really hope for.
Maybe it's a goal to say that we've got no guarantee money will just get to where it needs to get to, or whether it's going to be in a funnel.
You may put Sapphire.
Yeah.
That's what you meant.
Yeah.
So,
Which have they done?
oh, you're regarding the car, council. Yeah. Were they expecting to get money from someone? I'm just going back to their funding question as well. See attention. Okay. Yeah, I'm not seeing Catherine on one of their funding. I'm not sure whether they have requested, but it wasn't, I don't think it was declined.
I mean, I don't think we should be subsidising capital just because the large percentage of students is.
No.
Yeah, but they're not going to primary college. They're only
No,
going
no,
to
just.
Now, I also know that Marston gave 10 and they're requesting the parity. So I'm excited. I love what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just.
Yeah.
Okay, let's pull that down.
What Russell's like here, and what it normally looks like is
It's fine.
yeah.
Funding usually is 50% Marston, 27% South Warraba, and 23% Marston,
Yeah.
based on population.
But then if Harrison's not on there, then I think Ford's a good place to start for the same, but another.
Let's put forward.
Asking for a follow-up on how that money is spent from the South Warraba.
With
With
specific.
the schools, yes, because I think we need to know that we're putting it in, it's been spent in our area.
So we.
And that's not including Kirrawilli.
I don't think, no, you're talking about in front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, let's put 4,000 in there as our post model amount. Well, actually, as our finalised amount.
yeah.
Road safety education, we've discussed that. Part of road safety. Great young early years, very logical. Life education trust, 5. Last were during All Blacks trip, we've referred. Martinbury Youth Trust for pump track, we've gone with 20.
I'm still struggling with this, because it seems like if we give them 20, we actually are an organisation that's committed to that amount. It's they haven't got funding anywhere else.
And if they do have, they've already been fundraising. We are, what they said to us is they're already started fundraising.
But they haven't got free.
Yeah.
No, they haven't.
So they need something to break out.
But the people who said that, they need to put anything.
Yeah.
First to commit.
Well, that's what they pretty much said, they need money, so they want to break
I'm
out.
just struggling Yeah, 20,000 is a lot of money, and so that I'm just struggling.
I really would have preferred this to be part of the long-term plan, as we do normally with any substantial projects, such as the Great Elm Pump Park, or when we originally did the skate
And we
park.
can ask them, but they said that
I'm still confused. I see no problem with this being excluded.
Oh, yes, so if it comes from paying funds today, on another matters with Karen, and it looks like they may have approximately 100,000.
Yeah.
But that's, they need to fund.
But there's,
that's not necessarily.
there's not a quantum amount available due to
I think
Right.
criteria. Amount of fees.
Yeah.
So that's another vehicle for them, which is quite separate because of its things. I'm still comfortable with this, but I think there's going to be a requirement in the future for more community funding, and they need to come back to us through a different process.
Right, something else, there's three people who have, as individuals, or 4 people as individuals who committed. They've got approval from the WBS Community Fund. It doesn't say exactly how much, but they have got that, and then they've got 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, 10 other organisations that they're going to apply for the funding. But they haven't given an answer.
Yeah.
So look, guys, I mean, we settled on 20 from their requested 35. Are we still comfortable with that, or would we like to play with it?
I'm comfortable with 20.
Okay.
We can actually put a proposal on there that if it doesn't go ahead, they can't up with it.
Well, I think that is anyway, right? So we can do, yeah.
Okay.
Slee,
No, I'll go with the consent.
Garrett,
Yeah.
Yes.
yep. All right, let's leave it at that. Carlton Village Charity Trust, 60,000.
Yes.
70,000.
What is our, look, so intrigued, and what would really impressed me was actually 13 youth from the South Wairarapa have gone through that program. What is our stance on getting more than they request?
Well, I just see shot that down with lots of the other ones yesterday, so I don't think we'll let you know the same thing.
Right,
Yeah.
cool.
And just in that way,
So they wait, if they have something else, they know.
We have a second
another
copy.
resource. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that policy say with regards to funding?
I think if you check in Brenda, because I want to see a lot of people saying, hey, I have 12 minutes and we're only like 7.
Yeah.
I don't think it's much.
Yeah. No. Exactly.
So we confirm Sid.
Tirarangi Junior All Blacks at $2,000.
Yeah.
Oh, so we're just straight code, not 2 cents.
Yeah, straight to. Was that, look, again, if you.
No,
Just-
that's fine.
I think what our proviso, I'm not very correctly, was we're funding more than 50% anyway.
But they also, I think Pam mentioned the fact that they only once come before the time,
Yeah.
right, so.
Yeah.
I'm saying for any kind of funding at all, so this is like a
Yeah, it's great.
come through here, so.
You mean for the balance, they could do fundraising and.
Oh, well, that's doing right here.
Could I make the proviso on that when we looked at the total? Could we review that and we don't know exactly how much?
Tirarangi.
Yeah.
Okay. Young Readers Program for Booktown, requested 25, we put in 20, which is an increase on 5 from last year.
Yeah.
But I think we've seen the results as we discussed.
Excuse me, is there any way that we can, in a letter, send out, commend them that they actually take action on those suggestions from next year and then really increase.
You could do a later on this, certainly, because there is a letter that goes out.
Yes.
So just personal spin on this. What it did, because it had the different places where the vouchers would be spent. So Maynard chose we wanted to go to Greycoat to bookstore to look and see what he could purchase with it, you know, and he really went and looked at different ones to see where he could spend. Because he loves books and stuff, and that was really cool.
Yeah.
You know, just to see because and to get them interested in the different towns, you know, like what's available.
I think we will see this growing and growing.
Yes.
Eventually they will get to the point where, you know, they have enough sponsorship and funding.
Yeah, it's very good.
Mount Matoy Library.
Yes.
Yeah. Everybody's a treasure, we declined. Divine River, we've accepted and full of out. And Youth Fly, we've gone at 4,000. So you can look at yeah. That's a significant amount. When we compare other councils' contribution, it is higher. We are more rural and more further away from a major centre. That may impact what we're doing or what we should be doing. But is that amount correct? I suppose. What's the total?
$80,550. It's 80,550.
So for parity with other councils, it probably should fall back to around 1,500 to 2,000. But that may not be our focus. Yeah.
And we went about a lot of isolated rural communities. Yes, and for me, I like the anonymity too. It allows children isolated.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll just keep it as it is.
Yeah.
As it is, we've got 15,212.
Yes. And with that, then we can request to review the Tuhurangi Junior All Blacks.
Yeah.
And whether we want to up that another $564.50. Oh, 600. Well, David, no, it's
I would suggest that we
give them the full number.
give them 2,565.
Yeah.
Interested in cents.
Yeah.
Is everyone okay with that? Because we're changing what we had discussed yesterday. We need to go around the table with the changes. Everyone's happy. We have got a bit of overhead, which is nice.
Another school application that's in our community.
Yes.
It's there anyway to split that between the youth.
It sits on one or the other.
Oh, right. Okay. No, that's what I mean.
Let's look at the overhead of the community and we make a decision because it does straddle youth.
Right, yeah, so it's on.
Which I can read that conversation I had with the chairman of the board of Margaret Studios.
So can I suggest for ease for accounting that we actually give them 2,600, which is rounded up to 2,000.
2565 plus that's all.
2,565.
Yeah.
Who's this for sure, this book?
That's for the Tuhurangi. Are we all comfortable with the raising it to $565?
So it still leaves 15K.
Yeah, Linda, you okay with that? Yeah, no,
Yeah.
good. Right, so we've settled on 81,115 for youth grants with an overhang of just shy of 40.
So that should be 81,215.
81,115 is what your spreadsheets tell me.
81,115.
81,115.
How's your add sum functions going? Right. We've been going for an hour. Does anyone need a coffee, a proper coffee?
I need a.
Thank you, Brian.
What do you need?
Or a fix of copy statement.
Go, second, let's. Thanks, Michael.